Welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back to Ironclad RC. So we got the TFL Ariane on the block. Okay, today we're going to actually tear the Arenson drive all the way apart. I'm talking about completely disassemble it. There's one grub screw that I need to Loc-tite in this universal joint, or check, make sure it's Loc-tite. We're going to Loc-tite it. So we're going to completely disassemble it. That will actually give me the means and ability to answer a few questions I've had about the two-piece square drive, Arenson drive setup, kind of how it works, you know, and yeah. So stick around. Big B, Ironclad RC. Need to pull the motor, pull the stuffing tube out, pull that cap off right here. We need to take the Arenson apart, pull the Outdrive itself, the barrel, and pretty much completely disassemble this side. Like I mentioned, or I think I mentioned it, I've already done the other side. I did it to familiarize myself so I can kind of like point you guys in the right direction, show you what's going on. Okay, so I drilled this motor mount out so I can basically pull the collet, the flex cable all in one shot, you know, instead of having to just made it a whole lot easier. Check it out. So basically I can unplug my motor. I'm not going to unplug it because I got the wires plugged into the ESC. I'm about to solder everything up. I was just trying to Loc-tite everything on the boat before I basically finish all the mechanical stuff before I start soldering. I'm going to try to have this boat on the water this week. So we got the square drive out, okay? Square drive, it gets seated. That square flex cable gets seated in the shaft universal assembly. I'll show you once we get a little bit farther. Boat right here is actually pretty easy to take apart, to be honest with you, especially now that I drilled those mounts out. It just comes all apart. So I had a few guys actually ask me why I left so much room in between the block and the collet, and to be quite honest with you, I don't like leaving that much gap. I really don't. Ideally, you know, you want maybe a 1/4 inch gap or so at most. TFL had left more gap than that with this stock boat, and I was trying to leave this gap, so I don't know. I kind of wish I wouldn't have cut my stuffing tube short and just built the boat like I normally would build a boat. But these are 0.250 cables. We got a bearing in this oiler block right here. I think the bearing in the oiler block, I think it's there. You know, I think they use this so that they can leave a gap, and the flex cable's actually going to be riding on that bearing, so if there's any wobble or flex, it's not going to bind up on the stuffing tube. It'll actually be like rolling on this bearing right here. I also think the bearing will help keep oil in the stuffing tube, you know. It's actually a nice setup. I've already went over the oiler and all that stuff. I went over that in the last video, so with this boat, if you guys want to check the playlist. So I got the stuffing tube out. I actually put a little bit of silicone on the end of this stuffing tube when I did my final assembly. That's going to help keep grease and oil in the drive line and keep it out the boat. So I've went over all this too. So basically we got this this cap right here, and it basically just kind of like wiggle it off with the stuffing tube or a pair of pliers, you know. But that comes off, and I'm going to flip the boat around so you guys can see what I'm doing and I can see what I'm doing. Okay. Yeah, actually, you know what? Before we turn it around, it's easy to get to right here. Let's go ahead and disassemble this the steering and all that stuff. Okay, boom, boom, boom. This right here will pull it all off. All right, and the Outdrive basically comes off. I've already showed you guys this, but I figured I'd go over it again. So there's actually, you got your shaft, you got your universal type joint, and the pin, there's a grub screw that holds that pin in. And Brian, the guy who sent me this boat, you know, I went through my Outdrives, and that's probably the only thing I didn't do. And he was like, you think I should take the Outdrive out or the universal joint out? And I was like, nah, Brian, I honestly think it'll be fine. You know, go figure. Go figure. He does his maiden with this boat. And the only thing that happened was the grub screw backed out. So basically, TFL either didn't Loc-tite that screw, they didn't have it cinched on the flat spot, or they just didn't put a freaking grub screw in. Okay, and basically this pin come out, and he lost, let's see, what did he lose? I think he lost the shaft. I'll include a picture. And it tore this cup right here all to pieces. You know, I felt terrible because, I mean, he would have had a replacement part if he didn't send this boat to me, you know. And I also felt bad because he was like, should I take this apart? And I was like, nah, I think it's good, you know. Like 9 times out of 10, a universal joint, like the upgraded universal joints for cars, RC cars, they're pressed, fitted together, and they're not, you can't disassemble them, you know. This one, I guess it's made so you can replace parts, the shaft and whatnot. How was I supposed to know there was a grub screw in there that needed to be Loc-tite? Like, TFL should have done, they should have done that. Like, out the box, that should have been done. A high RPM part like that, that should have never been, like, left out and not Loc-tite. See inside, I got it cleaned up a little bit so you could see, well, I guess I could see that snap ring. You see that ring right there? So basically, you can pull that ring right there out, and basically the whole Outdrive will basically pull out of here. Sorry, I got you zoomed in a lot, but yeah, let's get that snap ring out. Snap ring pliers, they were like too wide. My other pliers, the ones made for snap rings, this one had like a real wide foot, so I took it out to my grinder and I grinded all of this down, and I did that work there so I can get this damn snap ring out. So it's kind of a pain in the butt, but yeah, I can actually get it pretty good with these pliers. There we go. Alright, my special tool. Like I said, my other snap ring pliers, it came with like 2 or 3 pieces that snapped on, and I had 2 of the 3. I'm sure the one that I lost was probably the one I needed, but I just made these, and they seem to work pretty good. Okay. Alright, so this should pull right out. It should pull right out for us. Yep. Okay. So the snap ring holds on here, and then this is where it sits. Okay, like in that through hole. Then you have a couple of bearings. Okay. And it basically kind of sits in there. Like this. You see that bearing in there moving? It's like a, okay. I was thinking it was more like a race, but I guess it's a bearing. One on the inside, it looks like one on the outside. Okay. Guys were like, you didn't put enough grease in there. Whenever I rebuilt this, there was plenty of grease in it. That's for sure. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to clean this up. When I disassembled this earlier, I soaked everything in alcohol, and I got it super duper clean before I put Loc-tite on it. And at the moment, all I have is blue, but I got the good blue. I probably really, I thought about it. I should have went and picked up some red, but I think blue will be okay. I'm crossing my freaking fingers. So basically, you see this right here? You got a grub screw right here. Okay, that holds that pin in place. And what happened to his, that grub screw backed off, the pin backed out, or at least one side of it, and then this thing started moving cockeyed because only one pin was set into it. So let's see if the other one, I broke it loose so easy. Look at that. I didn't even put no pressure on it, man. I'm glad I checked this. Brian, good call, man. I hate that happened to your boat. I really do. You know, see all that oil on it? So I got some alcohol here. We're going to probably wash it twice. Okay, so I'm going to set this grub screw in there. I'm going to push this pin out. Okay, make sure it goes on that flat spot. Man, I double, triple, quadruple checked it. Okay, and then this comes out. Alright, and then this pushes through. Okay, kind of wipe it off before I put in the alcohol. And then our grub screw sits in there. Alright, so okay. Yeah, I cleaned everything really good with alcohol, so I get a good adhesion. And I freaking went ham with the blue Loc-tite. I think red would probably be the best, but I use them what I have right now. Okay, so I kind of want to show you guys or explain to you how it works. Okay, you got your flex cable, 2-piece square end that receives into this square end. Okay, so when you oil this, the oil travels down the stuffing tube. These cables will be turning like counterclockwise to each other, outward rotating. So basically the cable will corkscrew the oil, grease back oil, and basically the oil will it'll kind of gather right here, you know, in this Arenson base right here. It'll kind of gather in there, and the bearings in here will kind of self-lubricate, really, if you think about it, because the cables are going to corkscrew it back and it'll catch here. You know, these, like I said, I put some silicone on this stuffing tube, you know, just kind of as a to prevent oil from backing out the stuffing tube. It does kind of lock it in place, but I could still move it if I need to and break it apart if I need to. So there's an O-ring here, and it kind of catches all the oil. The oil will basically, it'll self-lubricate these two bearings in here. I was kind of worried about running this boat in that brackish water, but since looking at how it's made, the oil, it'll definitely stay lubricated, you know. And this right here will all be packed full of grease. So when we turn, you know, that snap ring right there is basically what's holding this, kind of preventing all this from falling out. So, well, you know, all these right here, all the steering turnbuckles and everything, it kind of holds everything in place too. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points of contact, if I remember right. So when it's turning, this stays in place. It's stationary. You know, it don't move back and forth, and the flex cable is stationary. So it allows the outdrives to move independent of each other, independent of the flex cable. So I also had a comment, shouldn't you like lock or glue, should you glue the square end into this receiver here? And my answer for that on this particular boat is no. Now, I'm sure there are other setups where you do glue the square end in. I've actually seen setups where the square end is captured by 2 grub screws, you know, and it holds it in place. So this is just how this particular boat here works. Not saying that you shouldn't glue it in, because it may need to be glued in on other setups, you know. But I think oiling this and keeping it oiled, it's gonna really, it'll work properly. It should work like a well oiled machine, quite literally. So I've already wiped these down once. I got them soaking a little more. I'm about to clean these and then clean this up with oil, so we don't have any oil on our Loc-tite, so we get a good grab. Okay, I'll turn the camera back on once I start assembly. So pardon the mess, you guys, pardon the mess. I'm washing my hands. I've wiped this stuff down, all these little parts, several times. Got the grease off my hands here, got the grease off the universal, off the base, just so I don't get grease all over my hands while I'm working on it. Okay, so I got everything really clean here. Let's go one more time with this grub screw. So you get a good Loc-tite. I wish I had red, but whatever. I could have used this Great Plains, which is pretty good stuff, but I think I'm going to use the blue Loc-tite. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put some on the grub screw. Okay, go ahead and put some on the grub screw. I'm going to go ahead and put some in the threads. All right, so basically this goes in like so. Okay, this goes in like so. This goes into the cup like that. All right, need to find which. Okay, so that's the side with the Loc-tite, with the grub screw. We need to put that flat spot in the right way. Okay, so I got it lined up here so I can tighten it up. Flat spot, in line. Trying to keep it all on camera for you. If I get out of focus, I apologize. Okay, so we need to make sure this is centered up. Once we tighten it up, we'll make sure it's centered up in the cup. Okay, right there. My little grub screw. I got it on this guy right here because the driver I have, it's a larger diameter, and it kind of wanted to seat it like cross thread it in my last one, so I used this little driver. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way in with it, then I'm going to back off of it a hair. I'm going to push this pin, make sure it's in the flat spot, and it is. We'll center this up best we can. Right there. Don't move it. Use my driver and tighten it down. Okay, before I get it too tight, let's make sure this is centered up. So that's all the way pushed, all the way in, all the way out. This side here, all the way out. Oh, okay. Okay, so it actually looks close enough. Go loosen it up. Okay, that's centered. Okay, I'm gonna tighten it down. I did this for my last one, so I do this for a lot of stuff that I want to make sure I get my grub screw tight without stripping it out. So it's kind of like a impact driver. So I'm gonna put some pressure on it. Don't want to bend that shaft, but I'm gonna put some pressure on. I'm gonna put my driver in. I'm going to take my hammer, put some pressure on it, and kind of like an impact driver. Okay, and make sure I got it tight. Alright, and now I'm going to let this sit up before we grease it. I'm going to let this sit up. Before I do, I'm going to take this little... This is just, if you're using red, then you don't have to do this, but so I'm going to take this little guy right here. I'm gonna put a little drop of blue in those threads, and I'm going to take this little wire and fill those threads up with blue. You know, that'll keep it from, that'll harden. That will harden, you know, and hopefully help keep it in there. All right. So while we're waiting on the Loc-tite to kind of do its thing, I coated it with Loc-tite so that it would kind of prevent oil from grease getting down in the threads and breaking that Loc-tite loose, you know. So I'm gonna wait for it to kick off a little bit. Wanted to show you guys the props. I finished them up. They're done. They turned out really good too, boy. I did a swirl pattern on the back side. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I did a swirl pattern. I actually put some like light oil on here with this 500 grit sanding pencil I made. Rolled this up and C8'd it, and I kind of like, you know, because it had mold marks and stuff back here, so I did, you know, I worked the prop. I took it down so that all the blades look the same. Okay, and then to finish it off, I did a little swirl pattern all on the back side of the prop, you know. Got them matched up within 1/10 of a gram to each other, believe it or not. And I mean, there ain't nothing you can do about the mold marks, which these props had a lot. See right there, ain't nothing I can do about that, you know, which that's on the inside. It shouldn't really affect the overall performance. Like this, I don't know what to do about that. I don't want to take all that down, you know. It's like a hard edge right there on all of these, basically, you know. There was a lot of mold marks on the trailing edge right here on this. So I actually got my file running across it about that angle right there, and then I increased it as I went out, type deal. And what that kind of does is it sharpens up this edge right here, so the water breaks off of it nice and clean. So the water ramps up, speeds up on that little cup right there, and then it breaks off clean with that nice clean line that I created back here, you know. Also, I used that sander, and I kind of put, like, I like taking material off. I used to try to cup it and like bend this, you know, or like bend the trailing edge, but I've been taking material out instead of trying to bend it, you know. And it's actually pretty easy. You can make like 2 or 3 passes on this blade, turn it, do the same exact passes on this blade. And what I've been doing is like right here, taking some material out and creating like this natural little cup in the prop. So the water holds onto the, so it stays on the blade as long as it can until it breaks off, you know. So I think these are going to be some fast ass props. I do. And look, love you. See the beryllium, how it like dried in the mold. It almost looks like wood grain. You know, it's actually some pretty props. See all these lines right here? I tried to get all that out. Probably could do that one a little bit more, but I was really close in the weight, so I didn't really want to go too crazy with it. Like see grains in the middle. That's in the prop. That's not like, you can't feel it, you know. It's actual metal. They look good, boy. So I guess this is where all the work went in. Oh, a lot of work went into both sides, but I got them matched up pretty good. Pretty sharp. Probably need to go through and sharpen them, like really hone in the leading edge, you know. They're ready to go, boy. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing kind of greased up here. Okay. Boom. Get some grease on this. Boom, boom, boom. Little grease in here before we put the cup in. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, got that tight. All right, now we got to put that clip back in. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see me, but I'm just going to put the clip in like we taking it out, you know. I'm actually got to flip the boat over so I can get to it. So before I put it in, I'm actually going to make sure it's flat to each other, kind of compress it a little bit, make sure the shape's not deconformed. I need to get a snap ring kit because I got a couple other boats that need snap rings right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this in there. I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. So my homemade snap ring pliers actually work pretty damn good, just as good as a pair of real snap ring pliers. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get this in there. Boom, first shot. Come on, come on. So I'm actually going to take these guys here, which I kind of made specifically for tasks like this. So I'm actually going to compress them. I know it's not going to do much, but just makes me feel better. All right, got that E-clip, or I got that clip compressed. I'm going to put some grease in here, okay? And we're going to put the cap back on. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, like so. Boom. Kind of press fits in there. And I'm going to actually, a little bit of silicone on the end of my stuffing tube. This is removable. I should be able to remove this with no issue. Even after it's cured out and dried, I should be able to spin this if needed. This is basically just to kind of make a little gasket. Kind of make a little gasket in this cup back here, so no oil leaks out, which I doubt it would have, but because it's actually higher than the bottom of the cup, you know. So that cup would basically need to be completely full of oil for it to leak out the stuffing tube. But I just went ahead and put it on there just to be safe, you know. I actually do a lot of things because over the years I've learned not to take something for granted. You know, I've learned. Go ahead and do all the precautions and prep you can now, because once you get it on the water, something lets loose, it's too late. It's too late. The damage is done. So you got to take your time, kind of think about it, kind of think things through. Like this, it has a locking washer on there. You guys see that? But I went ahead and put some blue Loc-tite on it because this will be the last time I take this apart, hopefully, before my maiden. So I went ahead and Loc-tited it. You know, it has a lock washer. It probably wouldn't back off, but we're taking the proper precautions now before it's actually too late down the road. So I'm going to go ahead. Am I going to grease this cable before I put it in? No, I'm not. I'm actually going to oil it. Actually, you know what? Let's do it. Let's go ahead and grease it. Because I know I'll hear somebody, oh, you should have put grease on the flex cable. So I'm not going to like push grease in here because we greased it back there. I'm just greasing the cable. A little bit of grease on the cable. This is my final assembly, I hope. You know, not too much. We're going to oil this cable, but I figured a little grease wouldn't hurt. Okay, so we're going to put that in. I'm going to go ahead and seat that square into my cable into that square receiver. And I'm going to go ahead and Loc-tite my head screws for the motor. Okay, boom, boom, boom. My flex driver here. Make sure my wires are coming out. Sorry I had you guys zoomed in. Make sure my wires are coming out the right area. And get this. Get that started. I think I'm going to run 3 screws on my motor. I'm only going to run 2 right now. I got to get a screw set in. We'll run 3. Okay, when you use a flex driver, you can't get these screws tight enough with a flex driver. You can get them drove home, but you're going to need to pull your flex driver out and actually finish it off with a driver or an Allen or something, you know. Yeah, the flex driver, it don't have, you can't get the torque on it that you need, you know. So now I'm gonna zoom you guys back in here. So I want to find the most natural position for that flex cable, and we're going to match that up with the stuffing tube. You guys see how this one, it's dead nut center in that bearing right there. I guess you can't see it. It's dead nut center. So it don't really matter where these are coming out of. I want to find the most natural placement for this retainer, the stuffing tube, you know. So it actually matches up on both of them, so that's good. That bearing right there, if there is any like wobble in the flex cable, that bearing will take a lot of the wobble out. It'll have something to ride on anyway. I'm thinking about actually making me a new stuffing tube. If I do, I'll make a video on it. Kind of wish I wouldn't have cut all that stuffing tube off, because I cut the exact length off that the gap shot out, man, because I moved my motors back a little bit. And yeah, so anyway, any freaking way. So I'm gonna tighten this down. That looks pretty natural right there, you know. All right, so yeah, all right, well, let's get the drive back on. Actually use Lucas marine grease. Okay, and I just put it in my gun, and then I just fill up my syringe whenever I need it, you know. Boom, boom, boom. Wipe this off so I don't make a mess. All right, and we're going to actually put some grease back here. Boom, boom, boom. Put some grease in here. Boom, boom, boom. Gonna slide. Basically slid this this barrel back into place. I got everything greased up really good. Both of them are greased. I greased the heck out of them. Not even kidding. And then before my run, we'll hook up a tube here, squeeze grease in there while we got it all spooled up. You know, same on the inside with the oil. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and seat this back into place. Remember what I told you guys? Better to be safe than sorry. So rather than relying on a nylon locking nut, rather than relying on that little bit of nylon, what do? You take the proper precautions, the proper steps, and you just go ahead and Loctite it. Okay, like my oxy digger, I even Loctited that rudder pin screw. You know, I Loctited it. I know for a fact I did. I guess I didn't use enough, or I didn't have the area cleaned well, you know. The grub screw could have had some oil on it, and that Loctite didn't seat. So you take the proper precautions. You feel me? You take the proper precautions. You know what I'm saying? You clean everything. You Loctite everything. It's a thinking man's hobby. It really is. It really is. It really is. So like I said, rather than relying on that nylon and that nut, because I've had nylon locking nuts back off in the past. Rather than relying on it, you go ahead and Loctite it. Okay, and I'm going to tell you why, especially on this. Okay, so just imagine this right here breaks loose, or worse yet, one of these two screws right here back loose. Okay, what's going to happen? $100 worth of prop, $120 worth of prop, and about 6 hours worth of work down the drain, because you can't completely tighten down on these. You gotta get them tight and then back off of it 1/8 of an inch so that it pivots, you know. So your steering's not tight, you know. So you Loctite it. You because this right here is the only thing preventing these two Outdrives from going together, is this tie bar right here. Okay, so these back off. Oh, we had a bad freaking day, boys. We had a bad day. Yep, we had a bad day. I don't think this is going to need much. I just put a little dot on this screw right on this nut right here. That's a solid threaded rod right there. So yeah, if it spins one way, it's going to keep it even, you know. So I just put a little dot of Loctite on there, just to be sure. Do the same thing to both sides. I doubt these are going to make a difference even if they busted loose, you know. Better to be safe than sorry. Just a little dot of Loctite. It's a custom wrench I made for my Dominator to get those top adjustment nuts, you know. that's done. All of this, all of these are slightly Loctited so they don't back off. They're not cinched all the way down. I tightened them and then I backed off of them eighth of a turn or so that everything's like nice and loose, you know. Nothing's too tight, no binding, you know. So we're going to go ahead and slide these boots on. I have not had a chance to go and get the aviation compound for these boots. I do need to make a trip to Advance, like I said, and get some adhesives and sealants and stuff. So I'll be doing that here shortly. Let's go ahead and get this guy right here prepped up. Okay. I know, it was a long video just to Loctite one freaking grub screw. But it's the way it is. It's just the way it is in the hobby, you know. It actually gave you a really close-up look of how the driveline works, you know, like through and through, inside and out, the mechanical aspect of this setup, and what you got to do to get this setup on the water. You know, I wanted to go over it with you. I had a lot of questions. One of my subscribers actually gave me this idea. We may fill this up with oil and let it feed into each side. You know, it'll be gravity feed. So hopefully we'll try it. Why not? Well, we got to lose, you know. I got all the connectors soldered up, got my harness soldered up, I got my Y splitter soldered up, got the props finished up. Next video we'll be running water cooling, mounting ESCs, hooking up all the electronics, and the maiden should be out this week. If not this week, beginning of next week. We're shooting. All right, so I'm gonna pull this boat off, and I'm gonna throw a boat on the bench and have my final word. Damn, picking up that big TFL Ariane and then picking this thing up, about hit myself in the face with it. Not even kidding. So I'm actually really happy to announce my collaboration with Dr. Jet. You know, Dr. Jet's a really good buddy of mine. We talk quite often. I admire what Dr. Jet does with the minis, and I talked with the manufacturer of this Swifter XL, and I got the Swifter 26. Hopefully, it's not done deal yet, but hopefully he's sending a 26 Swifter to Dr. Jet, and we're going to do a collaboration. So I'll be sending you guys to Dr. Jet's channel to check out the 26-inch version of this 31.5-inch Swifter, and I really hope he gets it. You know, I think Dr. Jet will do a cool, unique build with the 26, and I'm really excited to do this collaboration. So with that, I'll leave you guys to it. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Big B with Ironclade RC.